Hey everybody, Steve Billman here. Thanks for joining me. Hey, today we are going to talk about an interesting subject. We're going to talk about modes, what they are and how they work. So, modes is an interesting subject because some people swear by them and some people can't stand them. So, if you find yourself in the camp where you can't stand them, that's okay. I think it's the modes are not the only way to create things. But I think even if you don't like them or you don't want to use them, it's good to know what they are. So at least they're at your disposal if you choose to use them. So we're going to go through and I'm going to show you how the modes work and how they relate to the major scale. And then I'm going to show you a simple way to apply them to a chord progression. All right, so in the first video I did for Harmony for Songwriters, I harmonized the G major scale. So if you haven't seen that video and you're not sure about the chords of the G major scale or the major scale in general, then I would encourage you to watch that video. Also, that same series, video 7, um, the video 1 I harmonized it in triads, then video 7 I harmonized it in seventh chords. So these modes are going to be applied to each one of these chords in the key of G major, and they're going to work on either the triads or the seventh chords. So either one, these modes that I'm going to show you will work on either the triad, which remember is a 3-note chord, or the seventh chord, which is a 4-note chord. All right. So if we go back to the G major scale, just looking at the scale, remember that in the key of G, there's one sharp, and that's F sharp. Everything else is natural. So when we harmonized the chords, we found that each one of the scale notes gets a specific chord on it. So we found that the first chord was a G chord, or if you were doing a seventh chord, it was a G major seventh chord. The 2 chord was an A minor chord, or an A minor 7 chord if you were doing a seventh chord. The 3 chord was B minor or B minor 7. The 4 chord was C major or C major 7. The 5 chord was D major or D7. 6 chord was E minor or E minor 7th. And then the last chord was that kind of weird diminished chord. Or remember that we had it as a minor 7 flat 5 chord, or as a seventh chord, or what we call a half diminished seventh chord. Okay, so each one of the scale steps of the major scale, then we applied a certain chord to that scale step and we gave it a name. And remember, there were 3 major chords, 3 minor chords, and 1 diminished chord. So what we're going to do now is then each one of the scale steps that produce those chords, where each one of the scale steps is going to have what we call a mode attached to it. And what's going to happen is each one of those modes then are going to fit the chord that it's attached to. So, for instance, the first chord was G major. So the first mode that we're going to play is going to be G major, and that particular scale is going to work over that first chord. Now, that's sort of the universal name for the scale, and it's correct. It's a G major scale. But with the mode name, we're going to call it Ionian. So the Ionian mode, and all of these names that I'm going to give you are Greek names that are attached to each one of these modes. Okay, so it is a G major scale, but when you're dealing with the mode, you're going to call it an Ionian mode. Okay, so when I play that chord, that's the scale that is attached, or the mode, I should say, that is attached to that particular first chord. Okay. When I go to the second chord, A minor, I'm going to start on the second step of the G major scale, which is A. And remember that when we play the scales, we're going to play 8 notes, or we're going to play from the low note to the octave note. So low A, we're going to finish on the higher A. Okay, so the notes are A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and A. So this gives us the second mode. And the modes, again, are going to represent the key that we're in. So in the key of G major, there's only one sharp. Everything else is natural. So if you're adding, if you have other sharp notes or flat notes or whatever, then you're not playing the correct scale. There should only be one sharp in any of these modes that we're playing right now because we're in the key of G. If we're in a different key, then it's going to go along with how many flats are in there will be the flats in the modes as well, or sharps. So the A minor chord, again, I'm going to play the second mode starting on A. It's just the G major scale, that's all it is, but I'm starting on A. I'm finishing on A. So A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and then A. That works on that second chord, A minor. Okay, and we call that mode the Dorian mode. Okay, the Dorian mode is the second mode. Now, again, just like the chords, the chord structure works in any key, the mode structure as well works in any key. Obviously, the roots are going to change, you know, what the second note of the scale is going to change depending on which key you're in. But the names of the modes are going to stay the same. The second mode, no matter what key, is always Dorian. The first mode is always Ionian. It doesn't change, okay? Third chord is B minor. So on that, I'm going to start on the third step of the scale, which is B. So remember, the modes are always going to start on the root of whatever chord you're on, whichever chord you're on. So B minor is the B is the root of the B minor chord. I start on B. And again, I'm only playing the notes from G major. So the notes are B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. And again, I always start with the root, I end with the root, an octave higher. So that B minor chord, again, the scale B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. Sorry, I keep saying scale, but we want to refer to it as a mode. So that third mode then is referred to as a Phrygian mode. Again, these are all Greek names. Okay? So that's the third chord. The fourth, and again, that could be B minor or B minor 7. It could be the seventh chord. The fourth chord, C major, or again, C major 7 if you're dealing with a seventh chord. You're going to start on the root, C, of the chord, and we're going to play the fourth mode. Now again, same notes as the G major scale, so make sure that your notes are matching the key of G major, one sharp. So C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and then end on the octave C. Okay, so here's the chord, and here's the mode. And that fourth mode we call Lydian. And Lydian is one of my favorite modes. It just has a real bright, sort of rich sound to it. And there's reasons for that, but I'm not going to get into it today. I just want to make sure we're understanding the modes. Okay, so that's the fourth chord. The fifth chord, we either have D for the triad or D7 if you're going to use the seventh chord. So our root will be D. And again, I'm just following the notes of the G major scale. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. Okay, and that fifth mode now that goes along with the fifth chord, in this case it's D because we're in the key of G, is going to be the Mixolydian mode, or Mixolydian, not Lodian, sorry. Mixolydian mode. Right, Mixolydian. The fifth mode. All right, next chord, E minor, or E minor 7, right? Starting on the root E, I'm going to play, again, just the notes of G major, but I'm starting on E. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. Okay? Now, you might recognize this scale because this is also known as the natural minor scale. So in that same series, the Harmony for Songwriters, I went through and we played the natural minor scale and we harmonized that. And this came out to be the same scale. So when you're dealing with the key of E minor, then you're going to call it the E minor scale, the E natural minor scale. But when you're dealing with it as a mode, this is the sixth mode in the key of G major, then you're going to call it the Aeolian mode. Okay. So it basically, like G major is the major scale, but it's also Ionian when you're dealing with the modes. E minor, if you're dealing with the key of E minor or any minor, then it's natural minor. But if it's the sixth mode of the major scale, then you're going to refer to it as the Aeolian mode. Okay. Again, every note that I played is consistent with the key signature of G major. It has one sharp. Everything else is natural. And the last one, so this gives us that diminished triad, or it also gives us the diminished, right, with the minor 7 on top, or what we called as the seventh chord, we called it half diminished, or minor 7 flat 5 chord, F sharp in this case. That's going to get the seventh mode. And again, I'm starting on the root of the chord, F sharp, and then I'm just playing basically G major scale up to the octave F sharp. So F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. That's my mode. And again, that's the seventh mode. And this one's a little strange because again, the chord is strange. It's a little dark. So the scale as well is a little dark. It has a minor second in it, that F sharp to G, which creates a little bit of tension. And but it's a great mode to play over a minor 7 flat 5 chord. And we call this seventh mode, we call it Locrian. Okay, so G major. Remember, we're in the key of G. G major, first mode, first chord, G major, first mode, Ionian. Second chord, in G major, A minor. We call the mode Dorian. The second mode is Dorian. Third chord is B minor. The third mode we call Phrygian. The fourth chord, C major, or again, C major 7. The fourth mode we call Lydian. The fifth chord, D major or D7, and the fifth mode we call Mixolydian. All right, we're doing well. The sixth chord, E minor or E minor 7, and the sixth mode we call Aeolian. And then the last one, seventh chord, either F sharp diminished or minor 7 flat 5. We use the seventh mode, which we call Locrian. Okay? So those modes should be memorized. And again, remember that these mode names apply to any key. So if you're in the key of D major, the second chord is E minor. So on that E minor chord, you get Dorian because the second scale step always gets Dorian. So this is transferable to every key. But I would start in G major and just get comfortable. If you can play piano, it'd probably be better on piano because you could play the triads and then you can play the individual notes, triads with your left hand and the individual notes with your right hand. This would be a way for you to get comfortable with what the modes are, how they work, and how they sound. So you can practice that. But again, you guys, when we're writing melodies, we're not writing scales. So in no way is this telling you to create scales for your melodies. You have to create melodic phrases. And I'll show you in a minute what I mean by creating melodic phrases. But the idea is just to do it as an exercise. Play the chord in your left hand, and then play the notes of each mode in your right hand. You can do it on guitar as well. You just have to do it separately. You can't play them together. So that's fine either way. But piano would be a little bit better. And just get used to what they sound like and practice them. Then what you're going to do is I'll come up with a progression. I'll show you, but you should do this as well. So I'm going to come up with a really simple progression. So I'm going to go the 1 chord G major, the 2 chord A minor, the 3 chord B minor, and the 4 chord C major, and then back end on the 1 chord G major, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the first three notes of each mode. So I'm going to take on the G chord, right? Which mode do we have? It's the one chord, so we get the first mode, which is, that's right, Ionian. So I'm going to take the first three notes of the Ionian mode, G, A, B, okay? Then on the A minor, it's the second chord, right, in the key of G major. So it gets the second mode, which is Dorian. I'm going to play the first three notes of the Dorian mode. So I'm starting on A, because that's the second note of the scale, Dorian. A, B, C, right? And then when I get to B minor, the third chord, I'm going to play the third mode, which is Phrygian. And I'm just going to play well, actually on this one, I'll play four notes. I'll play B, so that's the first note, right, of the scale, B, C, D, and then I'm going to jump up to a G, and then I'm going to play the C chord, and then on the C chord, I'm going to go to F sharp, because that is the fourth note of the mode. Now I'm using it a little bit more melodically. I'm not just playing the scale notes. I'm going to play F sharp, D. Both those notes are in the mode. There's D, there's F sharp. And then I'm going to end on a B, which leads me back to the G chord. And the B would be the third of the chord. So here's what it would sound like. Here's the G chord. I can't play it simultaneously, so sorry. But G chord, here's the first melody. Then I play the A minor. Play the first three notes of Dorian. Then I play B minor. And I'm going to play four notes here. And then F sharp. When I play that C chord, I can't play the whole chord, but the C, and then D against the same C chord, and then I would play G on the end to go back to the G chord. So you can see just by that simple little phrase. So if it's in time, I'll do it without the chords. 1, 2, 3, 4, Dorian, 2, 3, Phrygian, 1, 2, 3, 4, Lydian, C Lydian, and then the last chord is G, the Ionian, and I end on the B note. So again, I'm using the modes, but I'm using it in more of a musical way. I'm not playing the whole scale, because you don't want to play scales. You want to create melodies, and this is one way you can do it. So again, you guys, these are tools to help you as you're creating. This is not the only way to create a melody. And again, it's maybe not even the best way. But the idea is that if you have all these different sort of tools in your tool belt, then you're going to be able to create from more than one viewpoint. You know, you're not just going to create from looking at a melody this way, but there's going to be 4 or 5 different ways you're able to create a melody. And that's going to kind of mesh up as you get it inside of you and it becomes inputted, and then it just starts coming out. It's going to start coming out in really cool combinations of the different ways that you've studied melody or melodic phrases. And those tools in your tool belt will start to mesh together, and you'll start to create some really interesting things. Okay? So again, I hope that makes sense. I hope that helps. Appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks a lot. Take care.